welcome back to our channel. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we are going to be discussing the pros and cons of buying a home near a water retention area, or WRA. If you see it in the public records, that's what it's talking about. Here in Marion County, we have a lot of WRAs, a lot. They are very proactive in Marion County about having plenty of flood retention areas so that we don't have any issues with flooding. So a lot of times people will ask us if we have a lot of flood zones or if we have a lot of flooding, and we really don't. And even if we did have some flooding, we have designated areas that is county land. It'll never be built upon, that is for just in case kind of emergencies. So not only are we pretty high and dry, but because the county is so proactive with those water retention areas, and even the grading around houses and all sorts of stuff, we don't have to worry about flooding being a major issue for us. So I am very grateful for whoever insisted on having all of those water retention areas and those flooding plans so that we don't have that issue now or in the future. So well done, whoever that was, however long ago that was. I'm sure it was quite some time ago because we have those things all over the place. So what if you are planning on building a house and you want to buy some land, or you're planning on buying a house that's already built and it's right next to a water retention area, WRA? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? That is a recent question that we had on our channel, and I thought I answered the question pretty good, but you know, the only people that are going to see it are the ones that really go in depth in that. So I wanted to kind of do a video real quick and answer that question before you guys even know to ask it for some of you out there. So basically these water retention areas, or detention basins, are also what they're called. They're designed to manage stormwater runoff and prevent flooding. So instead of having water flood through your house, if we had a torrential downpour for a very long extended period of time, it'll go into those water retention areas instead of your house. Isn't that nice? I'm pretty sure there's a lot of places throughout the country that would really have appreciated something like that in recent years. But anyway, living near those particular basins can have benefits, and they can also have some negatives as well. So let's get into the pros and the cons of it, okay? Let's start with the pros. Always start with the positive. One of the biggest benefits to living near a water retention area is it protects against flooding. So you are, it's not necessarily like you're going to have a flood issue. You do want to look at the grading to make sure that your house isn't in the way of where the water is going to travel. So if you've got, you know, the street up here and your house kind of here and the water retention area back here, well, where is the water going to go but straight through your house? So definitely check on some of those older homes, especially check on the grading and see if they actually have where there's paths beside the house. So if you do have water travel, it's going to go around your house, not through your house. So, you know, you're not going to have those issues down the road. So just take a look at that. Pretty much any of the newer houses, I'd say within the last 30 years, they already have that kind of grading already. So you can kind of see there's like a little bit of a divot in between the houses. And that's basically your flood plain. That's your flood area. So that it takes the water away from the house, puts it into that little zone right there, and then it will take and follow it through to one of the water retention areas. It's really interesting if you look at like a topographical map and see how everything has been aligned just so throughout the county, so that the water, if it does come down and down and down, maybe in a hurricane or something like that, where it's just kind of sitting on top of us, which we have had that happen once before at least. And it just kind of sat on top of us for like 4 days and just kind of rained and drizzled and stuff. And there was a lot of water. So because it sat over top of us for so many days, there was a lot of rain and the ground just got saturated. So it had to go somewhere. A lot of the houses did not get flooded, even though we had a hurricane sitting right on top of us for days and torrential downpour. We didn't have flooding like that. They went into those water retention areas. Now, that being said, even though you're right by one of those areas, those can fill up. Maybe every time it rains, it fills up. And that's going to be an issue because you're going to have maybe an odor from stagnant water. That's definitely a con. You're also going to maybe have an issue with mosquitoes. So, definitely check into that. Now, if it's a water retention area that has not seen water in it since, before I was born, then obviously that's not such a bad thing. We have some of those in the county that they've basically kind of turned into a park. It's just this huge, massive water retention area that never gets water. It's just kind of there for the just in case kind of situation. And they've built sidewalks all the way around this huge water retention area. And now it is basically a public park because they can't build on that land. If that land has been designated as a water retention area, then yeah, it'll never have a house or a building put on it because that is specifically designated for catching all of that stormwater runoff. So it's going to prevent flooding. It's not going to be built upon. So that is something kind of nice. It's land that you can look at and it's beautiful and it has all these birds and wildlife and everything, but you're not going to have any houses there. Even though you don't own it, you don't have control of it, that that's not going to have any homes built on it. So it's kind of nice. You get all the benefits and none of the having to pay for it kind of thing. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, basically you just want to kind of, check and see if it's something that you can live with. Especially if it's something that is getting water. We have, here at our office, over by our house, we have, those are dry. I mean, dry. We have a lot of hills and stuff over by our home. But those water retention ponds, they never are ponds. They have no water in them whatsoever. But over here by the office, there are 2 large ones. And when we have a storm, they do fill up. And it takes a few days for the water to go back down and to disappear. So during that time, it can, there's definitely a lot of wildlife. There's ducks and all sorts of, birds and stuff that come over to it. But there's, other critters as well. We're going to be thick with mosquitoes if that fills up. So, having mosquitoes over there, definitely not so fun. And it can have a bit of an odor to it. Everybody's like, I'm never coming to your office now. No, it's just there for a few days. But it's just due to that stagnant water or maybe some of the decaying vegetation around it. So yeah, it can have an issue. And if it is something that gets filled up with water fairly regularly, it can be a safety hazard or a safety concern if you have animals or small pets and small children as well. So that is something to keep in mind, especially if you don't have a fenced yard or something like that. So if you have small children and it is filling up with water regularly, you're now basically in waterfront property, whether you want it to be or not. So keep that in mind. If you're not that worried about it, maybe your kids are older, then maybe it would be a great thing for you. So it really just depends, basically. We have advantages, we have disadvantages of living right next to one or right in front of or behind or whatever. But if you have those water retention areas adjacent to your property, you're going to have fewer neighbors, which some people really like. You're going to have, an excellent floodplain 9 times out of 10, and not have to worry about storm runoff or storm water doing damage or flooding to your home. But, you really have to look at your personal preferences. You have to consider what your priorities are, really, especially if you have small children or small animals. Now, if it is essentially a pond, it's a little bit different. Then you're going to go into a whole nother thing because then you get the added joy of maybe having some alligators. We don't really have that with the dry ones at all. But if there's one where it is maintaining water, it is essentially a pond, not a water retention area necessary anymore, but an actual pond. Maybe it has a spring that's sprung down at the bottom of it, whatever. Now you literally have, possibility of snakes and alligators and definitely mosquitoes and turtles and birds and all sorts of stuff. So just keep that in mind when you're out there looking for properties. And if you are looking at a property that has a WRA adjacent to it, there are some pros, but there are some cons. If it really, really, really bothers you, you absolutely do not want to be anywhere near water. That is not the thing for you. If you are worried that it's going to fill up and you have a small child, again, not maybe the right place for you. But you know, it's again, it's up to you and your choice. If you're going to fence your yard anyway, you're like, I don't care, it's fine. Awesome, that works too. But I just want to make sure that you and your family are happy and secure and safe no matter where you choose to live. All right, thanks so much for watching. I hope that I answered that question for you properly, fully. Hopefully I've answered the question before you even knew to ask it. And thank you to all my subscribers out there that do turn in questions on my videos, because it helps me to get creative and create more content for you guys. So thank you for that. I love having you guys you know, talk back and forth and ask questions and make comments and stuff in the comment section. If you want to get in touch with us directly, of course, all of our contact information is in the description below, or you can go ahead and send us an email. Email address is GER.ExpectMore@gmail.com, or you can go ahead and give us a call. You'll probably get Kathy, our receptionist extraordinaire over here. But our phone number here is 352-817-9160. Thanks again for watching. You'll have a great day.
Shake it up, stop when the clock hits 13. Sing 1, 2, 3, 4. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it.